Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. For today's lecture, we're going to talk about fasting during the month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan is one of the best months in the Muslim calendar as it holds a lot of blessings, especially during the night of Laylatul Qadr. This night is amongst the last days of the month, the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan, and it is recommended to increase our acts of worships during these days. But it also goes along for all the month of Ramadan, as there's no limit to doing worship and reflecting on ourselves as Muslims. Sheikh Ahmad Bamba wrote this book called Tazawwudu Sikhar and brought some rulings on the month of Ramadan. According to Imam Malik, there are obligations or farr and traditional acts or sunnah for our fasting to be accepted. The obligations are two. The first one is have the intention of fasting. Have the intention of fasting. The second one is abstination from anything which may break it. So you shouldn't eat, you shouldn't be drinking, you shouldn't be taking medicines if you're not sick, and many more. So these are things that we have to prevent ourselves from doing and not be near it. So these are the two obligations: have the intention and abstination from anything which may break the fast. The traditional acts are three. The first one is eating a meal before dawn. So before the first azan of Fajr, you are able to eat something so that when you fast, it wouldn't be difficult. So eat something that has a lot of sugar, like milk or yogurt, and some dates. Those are very beneficial. The second one is break your fast as soon as possible at its time. So when you hear the azan for Maghrib, you have to break your fast right away. If you wait for a long time, the fast will be ruined and you will have to make up for that day. So make sure you break your fast during iftar. And the third one is preventing one's tongue from vain chattering. So when you're fasting, you have to avoid saying things you should not say, like gossiping, slander, using inappropriate language, cursing, and so on and so on. Don't backbite. Don't be rude to people. Always have a positive behavior. And this is not only for Ramadan, but this is for your whole life as a Muslim. Ramadan is just a training session. So these are things we have to avoid. So the traditional acts or sunnah are three, like I mentioned. Eating a meal before dawn called suhoor. Breaking your fast as soon as possible at its time, iftar. Also, preventing one's tongue from vain chattering. So there are also exceptions during the month of Ramadan, and those are if you are sick and you're taking medications, you don't need to fast. You just have to make up those days which you were sick. So that's an exception. If you're a woman and you see your periods during that time, you don't need to fast. You can just count the days in which you saw those and make up for those days. If a woman is pregnant also, she has to nurture her baby, so she shouldn't fast. She has to eat and drink, but she has to make up for those days too. And the last part is if you ate or drank something like without having the intent, like you did it by accident, because that happens a lot. Like you might just see some water and drink it and remember that you're fasting, and then so don't be afraid, because if you did it by accident, there's no problem. You can just wait until outside of the month of Ramadan to make up for those days. But you have to remember, the moment you remember that you made a mistake, you have to start fasting. So in other words, continue your fasting during that day. So these are the rulings in which we have to pay attention to during our whole life of fasting. So thank you for listening. Wa alaikum salam.